Hello and welcome to another episode of Scale Up Stories. I'm Ben from Digital Beans, and this is a show where I talk to business owners from around the Southeast, learning about how some of the most well-known local businesses have got to where they are today, some of the challenges they faced, how they've overcome them, how business owners adapt to situations, and where they're going in this very different world that we're seeing in front of us now than when we first started doing this podcast series. If we're being serious, please feel free to come over and listen to some other episodes. Next week, we're not going to have a live show. Instead, we're going to have a week of Scale Up Stories, and every day we're going to drop a brand new podcast from shows gone by. So please check out Digital Beans UK across your social media, or search Scale Up Stories on your podcast platform of choice. You're going to hear from some fantastic business owners about their brilliant businesses next week. Right. Joining us today, really looking forward to this one. We've been speaking to Grace for a couple of months, well, actually, probably for near enough a year now about working with Goupie. And we finally joined forces. Grace Simpson, the director at Goupie. How are you doing, Grace?
Hi, yeah, good, thanks.
It's good to have you. Good to have you with us. When we first started talking was when we were in between lockdowns, I think, and you were very busy, like going from between your premises and also working from home. So how is everything at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it's not almost changed, really, has it? But it's every single week seems to have been a little bit different for the last year. And we're reopening the chocolate house next week, so it's pretty much all systems go yet again.
Do you know what? When you say chocolate house, all I can think of is what's that kids book where you read it and they go out into the middle of, is it Little Red? No, it's not Little Red Riding Hood. They go into the forest and it's just like a house of like sugar candy and sugar canes and yes. And all I can think of is there's just a random chocolate house somewhere in Kent, just out in the sticks, and that's where Goupie is situated. Oh, what a place! I want an invite to that place. I'll be eating the tables, I tell you. We'll talk more about the business, more about the challenges you faced in a second. But for anyone out there who doesn't know about Goupie, tell us a little bit about your business.
So we make a chocolate confectionery called Goupie, which is something that my grandmother used to make for my mum and her sisters, and then in turn, obviously, my mum made for us as kids. It's kind of a soft chew, a little bit of a crunch, and it's all covered in chocolate. And we've sort of expanded that into about 19 flavors, into hot chocolates, and into our chocolate house now.
So you say it was something that obviously your grandmother before and your mum like sort of made, and it's their, so to speak, their secret recipe, their recipe. Do you have any early memories of your mum? Yeah. Tell us about a few of them. Tell us about a few. Did you ever like take them into school to share with friends? Like, did you ever?
Every single like school raffle, for example, that's what Goupie, that's what Simpsons brought, was the Goupie tray bake style thing that we contributed. Every single Halloween, my mum would make like a heap of it, and I just remember all the kids having like going in on this massive pile of chocolate treats in the room, and they'd make separate ones for the adults so that we wouldn't like eat them all for them. Like road trips, literally, Goupie really was like our childhood treat. That was what we had for everything.
You must have been the most popular kid at school, and also instead of having to send out invites for your birthday parties, you must have just had people queuing at the door thinking, oh yeah, no, we go there, we're getting an amazing sugar rush there.
Yeah, I did used to joke that's how I got most of my friends, was just but
and still do that's your way in with anyone into any conversation. Hey, yeah, you seem like a nice person, did you know? I love that. I love the family story behind the business as well. So when was it exactly that the business was founded?
So in 2010, which was when I was in sixth form, we sort of, because my mum sold her old business and was thinking about what to do next, and we were brainstorming around the table, and me and my sister basically were like, well, Goupie, obviously that's the thing that you need to sell. So she made some and kind of accidentally started the business. So we went to we'd go to shows where me and my sister would be selling it for her, and her and my dad just like go around local cafes and some of our existing farm shop customers as well, and just sort of sell the primitive Goupie in the form that it was at the time.
I love that. And in terms of obviously your mum having a massive influence on the business, what was her background before Goupie? You said she owned another business.
So she's actually a journalist by trade. So she had obviously been in journalism, and then her and my dad used to have a publishing company, and then she did soaps. So I think it was her wedding venues business that she'd sold just at the time when Goupie was started. So quite a few different things. I mean, it was kind of drilled into us quite young, I'd say that.
Yeah, I mean, although not like a sweet treats business or a confectionery business or anything within food and drink, but I think the one thing that we keep speaking about on this show is being able to take your skills into a business which maybe has nothing to do with previous past experiences, and being able to adapt the business around them. For example, your mum's background in journalism must help with press and PR. And thinking outside the box on those things, but then also with the weddings venue business and what she's done there around catering contracts and knowing people within the industry and looking at how you can target that market. It must have just all been able to help to sort of try different things to expand areas of the business.
I think so. And I think what really has helped, so when I joined full-time, was my sort of new and enthusiastic look, and her sort of, I've done it a few times and I know what to look out for and how to be sort of a little bit more sensible about it. And I think that sort of melding has been really useful in keeping us reined in, but also pushing us a little bit more. Like, it's a nice balance between two different worlds. I mean, ironically, I do the PR, but yeah,
but learn all from your mum, of course. So, what's your background then? What was you studying, and sort of when you started, obviously joining forces with your mum within the company and bringing that enthusiastic look into it? Is it being around the company that enabled you to adapt and have a look and being slightly younger, look at new opportunities for the business that really helped, or is there a certain background area that you managed to bring into the business that changed the outlook of it really?
Yeah, so pretty much from, obviously I was in sixth form when it started, so it was already like in my mind. So I went to study business at uni, with the sort of game plan that I would be able to bring that in. And I also have worked in like hospitality sort of sporadically on a grad scheme after uni and stuff. So that's where the chocolate house, that was always the aim, was that we'd have a retail shop at some point. So I sort of got as much experience as I could in hospitality, so that I could bring something a little bit different to it. So I guess a formalized business training, and then the hospitality section, which pairs nicely with my mum, who's obviously got the PR training, but then also is just a naturally very good cook and had the experience of owning businesses before.
I like speaking to family-run businesses, because hearing your story and hearing what you're saying there, I'm interested and intrigued to know, was it always your plan to sort of mould your education, sort of higher education, around going into the business and at some point taking it over, from your parents, or was it your family's plan to shape your education that way for you to be able to do it, or was it a bit of a collaboration between the both?
I would say it was very much my plan. I'd say I
Right.
probably forced, if anything, I forced them into it. I mean, also, who wouldn't want to, own a chocolate company? That's pretty much the dream. So yeah, I'd say pretty much as soon as it was started, my aim was, I need to like get to a position where I can do this full time.
Yeah.
So I was doing bits throughout the sort of intro years of Goupie, but obviously I was, studying and not fully immersed in it. And my aim was always to come in. And I think actually, possibly, my mum wouldn't have still been doing it if I hadn't come in, because it gets to a point where you're doing it on your own for so long that I guess it can be quite taxing.
Yeah, of course. And to be honest, every business owner, I think, has a retirement plan. So if they can like look at their family to come in and take it over, I mean, it's perfect, because, and also that gives you a long career. Then it gives you an opportunity to be able to sprout into different fields and learn different things on the way. I mean, it's an interesting one, education, because and I love speaking to business owners about this. I mean, personally, I'm not a business owner, but when it comes to education and me doing my role, my education had nothing to do with what I'm doing now. My previous careers had nothing to do with what I'm doing now, but I'm managing to use elements of everything I've learned and real life experience to sort of create my way into this role. And I wouldn't even say that I'm doing a normal business development manager or relationship manager's role at Digital Beans. I'll say that I'm actually in some ways lucky, because where I've not been trained to do this position or, watched anyone else do this role before, I'm able to make a role for myself that I feel like is the future of anyone who's doing this role anyway, if you know what I mean. So it's sort of being able to look out the box on how, a business should develop and how relationships should happen with clients and new businesses and ways to get new business, et cetera, et cetera. I suppose what's quite interesting with you is obviously you saw that plan and you educated. You went and got the education that you felt like you needed to be able to get to that level. When it comes to real life experience, which you said then at sixth form, you was out at events, and obviously you've always spent a lot of time around the business with your mum. When it comes to that real life experience versus what you've learned, how much that combined, how powerful is that combined? Or would you say that you feel like, a lot of the things you've learned have come from more real life or more from your education?
I'd say on the practical day to day, 100% real life experience.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I studied something which is probably the closest thing that you could study to doing what I do now.
Yeah.
And I would say I use next to none of that really in a day to day. But what it did do was give me the confidence.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course.
I'm a young person, and when I was obviously starting with Goupie, I was younger. And you're going to events and you're speaking to buyers and you're trying to like position a business, and it's quite a lot to do without that confidence. And you don't tend to have that confidence that young, because you kind of assume everyone knows a bit more than you, don't you? And that
Yeah.
there's a reason why someone's doing it that way, or that.
I do that now. I
Yeah,
do that now. So like whenever I look at what other businesses are doing or other people in my roles are doing in other places, I always question myself, well, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I am underqualified. Maybe, and I think you're right. I've never been one who's short of confidence, but I think when you question yourself, you are slightly hitting on your personal confidence. I mean, as a business owner, how as someone who's running the day-to-day of a business, how important is it having that confidence? Because just reflecting on what you said then, if I was able to take confidence like you can, I think it would bring a whole new energy to my game. So how important is that for you?
I think it's most of it is just having confidence that you're doing the right thing for your business. I mean, we've had big customers who we've turned down, which is one of the like scariest things. I think turning down
Mm-hmm.
like an Ocado for a listing, you're thinking this must be a big mistake. But I think actually they've been some of the best decisions we've made, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
never have done that if I hadn't had the confidence that this is why I'm doing it. And I think having a bit of formal education just kind of helped with that confidence, but it's not the only way you can get it. It's just that's how I needed it. I needed to know that I had some like backup, I guess, behind my decisions.
I've just used like the past 10 minutes as a therapy session for me, it seems, because now you've got me inspired to want to go and sit on some courses and to go and further my education. Because I truly believe, yeah, you are completely right. I think, it's easy to say, oh, practical learning is more important than, so to speak, tutoring or so to speak, any type of qualification. But you are right. I think confidence is such a big thing, especially as a business owner. And although maybe you can trust your judgment, being confident of your judgment, I think is a completely different thing. And yeah, that's a really, really interesting outlook. And I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs and young business owners that listen to this, some who are studying right now and have businesses running at the same time in the background through e-commerce or through potentially events, which obviously we can't get to at the moment. But I think that's a really important message that you've just said, that they've got to keep on, because when it comes down to it, at some point, they will lean back on what they've achieved through what they're learning at the moment. And I think that's massively important. So yeah, very, very good point. I want to hit on the business model slightly, because obviously people, as you mentioned before, you work with farm shops. I don't know how far you are into wholesale or retail. You said there about some of the listings that you've had to turn out, so it'd be good to hear a bit more about that. But also, people can obviously buy through your e-commerce store. I'm really interested with e-commerce because obviously e-commerce is taking off rapidly, and everyone's looking to mold their business more around e-commerce if they have a viable product to do so. So is e-commerce an area of your business that has always proved popular, or has COVID really sort of initiated and created that environment for you to thrive in?
I would say that the COVID has definitely helped
Mm-hmm.
matters, but probably so. Full time, I joined 5 years ago. My aim, obviously, as a younger person who's just there, like everything's on the internet, it's got to be social media, was really to like build that presence. So I'd say about 4 years ago, we jumped quite significantly in what we were doing online to now. And obviously, as a producer, so we do make everything ourselves, and a lot of food businesses tend to sort of contract manufacture that out. So you're a bit more of a sales and marketing operation. Because we're making it ourselves, to sell it to a wholesaler or a retailer, obviously you just don't get the same returns back. And the e-commerce, I think, is going to become more and more important for us to basically get what the product is worth back out of it, and have that one-on-one relationship with our customers, because otherwise you're going through maybe 2, 3, 4 parties before you get to your final customer, and you can't really like control that rhetoric. I think that 4 years ago it really jumped, and that was purely just because we put some effort into it, but COVID has definitely improved things, and I guess it more gave us as well, again, confidence. It gave us the confidence to really push that. So the reason we started with you guys is because we got the confidence from last year, realizing the potential of the online business and how much we have really explored.
Yeah, 100%. And I think looking at your website, obviously it's usable, it's great, got great usability, you've got some fantastic campaigns out there now. And also, I think what's great as a business, you also do adapt seasonally. There's so much you can do. You look at your product and go, well, okay, what can we do seasonally with this? What can we do, to make the most of landmark moments, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. Veganuary was obviously a big one for us. And then obviously coming up, Easter. And I was looking online the other day, and you've got Easter eggs, which, might seem quite natural to some people, but there are some local businesses out there who are in a similar industry who don't do stuff like gift hampers, don't do stuff like Valentine's Day boxes, don't do stuff like Easter eggs. So for you, is that your touch? Is that you going, we need to make every opportunity here and every single basis?
Yeah, I think I've really been pushing for that the last year. I don't want it to ever be like a gimmicky thing. I don't want to do sort of really, I don't know, things that can only be appreciated at that time of year. But we found that we were naturally pulling towards Christmas, particularly with our wholesalers. They were really bringing in a big pull at Christmas, and we had hamper companies who are buying from us, which meant that from August to, which is when Christmas starts really for us, August to November, we were full on out. And then it comes to January and you're kind of not very busy for the rest of the year. And in terms of staffing, that's obviously really hard to keep that consistency. So I really wanted to kind of even out, I'd say, our sales a little bit over the year to make it more sustainable for us in the long term. So Easter was the obvious one. I mean, it's chocolate, and we'd always done a bit for Easter, but I think it was probably positioned wrong. So yeah, I'd say the last year or two, I've really been pushing the sort of gifts and creating things for customers where they don't have to think as much. I'd say like where you can really just have that all in one package that you get, and you don't have to put too much thought into it, because people are busy, and sometimes you just want to be like, I've got this, I know they'll like it, they don't eat dairy, or they want something local, and this is the perfect thing for them.
Also, I think with e-commerce, when people use e-commerce nowadays, it's because it's something that you can do within a click of a button. So it's really, really easy for the end user. And I think, like you say, if you're on the Goupie website, potentially you're looking at one thing to then go, oh, they do Easter eggs as well. Oh, okay, yeah, we need a few of those. Done. It's just simple. It's effective. It's efficient for the end user and for your customers. I do want to talk about your products and so to speak. You've got a big section on your website about your ethical stance in terms of your staff and your ingredients and where they're sourced from. Of course, everything you make is naturally gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan. You use some fantastic ingredients, and you talk about them a little bit more on your website. I just want to hit on, obviously your standpoint as a business when it comes to this. Was it always the way that you guys wanted to create something that was accessible for everyone, no matter obviously where they stood in terms of whether they were vegetarian, whether they were vegan, whether they were, meat eaters, whatever, but also for those out there who are gluten-free? Obviously, my fiance is celiac, so she hasn't been able to eat gluten for years. And I remember when we first got together 7 years ago now, there was nothing for her anywhere, nothing. The journey that gluten-free food has gone on over the past 7 years, but also businesses have noticed that things can be naturally gluten-free and still taste good, like it can do. And also businesses have noticed that dairy isn't gluten, which is great. Which at one point, we will go out and we'll go, can we just check, is your hot chocolate gluten-free? Because sometimes it can have barley, and they go, oh, it contains milk. And I'm just like, come on, mate. So I think it's great that businesses are pushing their ingredients more and the suitable nature of their product to people out there. Was that always a point of view for you? Opens up the audience a bit more? Is it just a case that is there a personal touch in there to do with that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when we started, that was not obviously it wasn't in anyone's day-to-day conversation anyway. I'm talking like 11 years ago, and it really wasn't something we were thinking about. But when I joined, it was definitely in my mind. I mean, it was probably part of the time of year. My sister just turned vegan, so we were kind of like, oh my gosh, are you going to be able to eat Goupie? This is like a family business, family recipe. And actually, it just turned out that she could. The ingredients were using were just high quality ingredients, and you don't need to have dairy in dark chocolate. It's often used because it's cheaper. So we just didn't happen to have it, and that made me think, okay, we really need to like push the rest of our products so that they're all available for everyone. And then again, some of them were gluten-free by nature because they didn't have the biscuit in the base. And so then I spent time really sourcing like a good gluten-free biscuit that we could use. And it's evolved, I'd say, in the last like 5 years. But I think now that's core to what we want to do. We want it to be something that everyone can enjoy, but they don't feel like that they're missing out on anything. I don't want Goupie to be a product where it's a compromise. It has to have flavor first, and then the rest of the stuff, can fall into that. It's not.
Yeah,
Not
I know for a fact with my fiance as well, and for the celiac community and people who can't eat gluten or can't have dairy, etc. It breeds confidence when a company shouts about their products not containing these ingredients, because there's so many times you've got to go and read the small print to find out from businesses. And I think when businesses are shouting about it, I mean, I know Fudge Kitchen are starting to shout about it. I know you guys shout about it. It makes it so easy on the end user to then go, yeah, do you know what? Like, and especially if, you've got older relatives who like, one of my fiance's relatives shops online for a lot of things, and she would just click add to basket on everything, and all of a sudden Charlotte would get like a big bar of chocolate like for birthday, and she'll just realize she can't eat it, like, because she can't have it. Whereas it's easy then for those people to go online and go, oh well, yeah, Charlotte's gluten free, she can have this. Done. It's easy for everyone that way. I was also interested to read that all your packaging's 100% recyclable as well. In terms of the environment, how important is that to you and to the business?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably should be important to everyone. And I think we've always been focused that way as a family. Obviously, there's been more light shone on it in the past couple of years. So although it was always important for us that things were recyclable, I think the sort of last 4 or 5 years, I've really thought, okay, well, we don't just need to do sort of like the easy bare minimum in terms of recyclability, but we should be actively trying to source the best things we can and ask the difficult questions, because that's how you get a bit of change. And we're tiny, so there's not much chance we'll make huge change, but if you've got to try a little bit. So we're still evolving, I'd say, and making it better as best we can every sort of day.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like the last couple of conversations we've had, you've hit on the journey you've gone on over the last 5 years, and you must have had quite a few challenges in there. And I think now's a perfect time to talk about those, because also hitting on the recycling, the packaging being 100% recyclable. It's not just the fact that you go online and go, oh yeah, we could use these boxes, they're 100% recycled. Like, you've got to test that. You've then got to see how that matches in with your branding. You've then got to go on a journey to evolve the business to be able to use that packaging. So when it comes to the business and the challenges you faced over the last few years, I mean, COVID, you can hit on COVID, of course, it's been a challenge for everyone. But I suppose, what would the biggest challenge that comes to mind be, and how do you feel like you've managed to solve that situation, solve that challenge, and be in a better place for it now?
It's a difficult question. I think our biggest challenge has always been how to scale up in a way that we think is authentic to us. I don't actually know if we've solved that problem necessarily so far, because scaling up is so constant. But really, the way we've done it is always just investing everything that we make back into the business. So we've never had external investment, which means we've kept all of that control. And in terms of like I hit upon suppliers, customers that maybe we've not gone with, which could have scaled us up much quicker, but I think would have ultimately detracted from what we were trying to do. And there's other things. So for example, we've moved to compostable bags in the last year and a half. They're 4 times more expensive than the bags we were using previously. So you're automatically losing X amount more. But I think more important than the profit you'd make on it. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've necessarily solved how to scale up properly, but we have been, going for 11 years and we have grown. So I'd say there's, we've made compromise on the speed.
Yeah, and I was going to say, you're also, as you said, you're always invested in different things: the compostable bag, the 100% recyclable products. The fact that in the last 5 years, you've managed to find new ingredients to, make your products more accessible. This is all part of scaling, adding new members to your team. You've been able to open a chocolate house, invest in your website to make sure the environment is easy and better for the end user, and now invest in digital marketing as well. I mean, these are all signs that you're scaling. I suppose the only thing that can 100% nail that down is, well, okay, how many more customers have we had over the past 12 months, and how much more money have we potentially made? But of course, that doesn't paint the whole picture in some ways, because as a business, if you've also added in that time 2 members of staff, you've also added X amount of products, you've produced X amount more products, which means more money spent on ingredients. Like, do you know what I mean? It's of course the profit margins are massive, but also it's about, as a business, having a look at, well, have we scaled? Have we?
Last year, like you say, we opened a chocolate house and then we had a pandemic. So it was pretty much anything on a bookkeeping side probably says we've gone back a step. But I think we know, as the business owners and seeing it day to day, that's not the case. We've come on hugely in the last year, and actually we've managed to really streamline what we're doing to the point where we focus on the right things. And I think actually, it doesn't always show the full picture. And for me as well, most people ask for your revenue, but it's all about profitability at the end of the day. So maybe our revenue hasn't increased as much, but if our profitability has, then that's more important to me almost. It's trying to be sustainable in it. It's not exciting like, oh, we've had millions from investors and XYZ, but it should be long-term thinking, hopefully.
100%. No, 100%. I completely believe in that. And I think you guys have a fantastic business model, and you're great to work with as well. I was catching up with Josh the other day. He's really, really enjoying it. And our account managers are having a lot of fun working with you guys and working with a brand. I think Goupie's quickly becoming, a really recognizable brand here in Kent as a business we're all proud of, and a business we're hoping to see flourish, not just here, but hopefully internationally as well. People can order now through e-commerce, and it's accessible to everyone. So fingers crossed, your fantastic customers keep sharing their fantastic experiences, and more people keep buying, and more people keep supporting the business, because it's a great business. It's a delicious business as well, let me just add. And on top of that, it's great to see a local company thriving and positive. That's important. Positive outlooks, massively important. So Grace, thank you for coming on. I suppose my final question to you is, we've spoken about the e-commerce store. We've spoken a little bit about what's going on, and the chocolate house really hasn't gone full steam yet because of the pandemic, but hopefully within the next couple of, well, I say weeks, but months, we'll be there and we'll be able to come and visit you. What are the plans for the next 3 to 5 years? What's next for Goupie?
Yeah, so absolutely. Let's reopen the chocolate house as step one, and actually get a full year of trading under our belt, because I think what we really want to do is start pushing that more direct customer experience. I don't want to lose any of our trade customers and the farm shops and that sort of local businesses that we have. But I do really want to build on working our network out. Just being in the chocolate house, it's bizarre how much more of a sense of being in the local community you get from that. And I'd really like to improve that, and ultimately have more dotted around, and really build the e-commerce business so that everyone gets to speak to us rather than through a couple of third parties and not really understanding what we're doing or who we are. Or so that's
Definitely. Yeah, 100%. Well, it's exciting, and we can't wait to go on this journey with you. Please keep in touch with us, and obviously on top of that, we'd like to do this again in the near future, so we can see where you're at, because I think it's really important to get a perspective where we're at now, and potentially in 12 months' time what's happened, because who knows what's going to happen. So yeah, we'll definitely do this again at some point. And as I said, it's fantastic work with you. Where can people go and get hold of some of your devilishly Moorish chocolate?
Well, that would be on the website, goupiechocolate.com, and you can follow us at Goupie Groupies on all social media.
And if anyone wants to buy me an Easter egg, that's where you need to get it from, by the way, guys. Just putting it out there. Grace, thank you so much, the director of Goupie, on with us. As I said at the start of the show, if you want to go and catch any other scale-up stories that we have done with local businesses from within the Southeast, please do go to your podcast platform of choice and search Scale-Up Stories. Stick a follow on our Scale-Up Diaries podcast, I suppose you called it, profile, and make sure you check out some of our latest episodes in there. As I said, next week, brand new episode every day, as I finally managed to get my microphone from the office to home, so it sounds a heck of a lot better than the thing I was using before. I can do the intros and outros now, like in a proper radio voice. It's going to be fun. Thank you for joining me, Grace. Take care, stay safe, everyone, and we'll be back with another live episode in a couple of weeks. Take it easy.